Alien.
Alien. Strange and frightening, different from what you are used to. For example, an alien environment.
Apartment. A set of rooms for living in, usually on one floor of a building. For example, an apartment building.
Balance.
Balance. A situation in which different things exist in equal, correct, or good amounts. For example, this newspaper maintains a good balance in its presentation of different opinions.
Bathroom.
Bathroom. A room in which there is a bath, a wash basin and often a toilet. For example, go and wash your hands in the bathroom. Bed. A piece of furniture for sleeping on. For example, a single/double bed.
Bedroom.
Bedroom. A room for sleeping in. For example, the spare guest bedroom.
Blend.
Blend. A mixture of different types of the same thing. For example, a blend of tea.
Board.
Board. A long thin piece of strong hard material, especially wood, used, for example, for making floors, building walls and roofs and making boats. For example, he had ripped up the carpet.
Brick.
Brick. Baked clay used for building walls, houses and other buildings, an individual block of this. For example, the school is built of brick.
Building.
Building. A structure such as a house or school that has a roof and walls. For example, a tall/high-rise/10-story building.
Carpet.
Carpet. A piece of thick woven material made of wool, etc., used to cover the floor of a room or stairs, the material used for carpets. For example, he spent the morning laying the new carpet.
Castle.
Castle. A large strong building with thick, high walls and towers, built in the past by kings or queens, or other important people, to defend themselves against attack. For example, a medieval castle.
Change.
Change.
The act or result of something becoming different. For example, change in something. Change.
Change.
The act or result of something becoming different. For example, change in something. Collect.
Collect. To bring things together from different people or places. For example, collect something.
Comparative. Measured or judged by how similar or different it is to something else. For example, then he was living in comparative comfort, equals compared with others or with his own life at a previous time.
Confrontation. A situation in which there is anger between people or groups who disagree because they have different opinions. For example, confrontation with somebody.
Corridor.
Corridor. A long narrow passage in a building, with doors that open into rooms on either side. For example, his room is along the corridor.
Cottage.
Cottage. A small house, especially in the country. For example, a thatched cottage.
Current. Happening now, of the present time. For example, the necklace would be worth over $5,000 at current prices. Currently. At the present time. For example, the hourly charge is currently £35.
Disagree.
Disagree. If two people disagree or one person disagrees with another about something, they have a different opinion about it. For example, even friends disagree sometimes.
Disagreement.
Disagreement. A situation where people have different opinions about something and often argue. For example, disagreement about /on/over/ as to something. Distinctive. Having a quality or characteristic that makes something different and easily noticed. For example, clothes with a distinctive style.
Diverse. Very different from each other and of various kinds. For example, people from diverse cultures were invited to the event.
Diversity. A range of many people or things that are very different from each other. For example, the biological diversity of the rainforests.
Door. A piece of wood, glass, etc. that is opened and closed so that people can get in and out of a room, building, car, etc. A similar thing in a cupboard. For example, open the door.
Downstairs.
Downstairs. On a floor of a house or building lower than the one you are on, especially the one at ground level. For example, a downstairs bathroom.
Downstairs.
Downstairs. On a floor of a house or building lower than the one you are on, especially the one at ground level. For example, a downstairs bathroom.
Embed. To fix something in a substance or solid object. For example, be embedded in something.
Entrance.
Entrance. A door, gate, passage, etc. used for entering a room, building or place. For example, the front and back side entrance of the house.
Estate.
Estate. An area of land with a lot of houses or factories of the same type on it. For example, on an estate.
Faction.
Faction. A small group of people within a larger one, whose members have some different aims and beliefs to those of the larger group. For example, there are rival factions within the administration.
Firm. Fairly hard, not easy to press into a different shape. For example, a firm bed or mattress.
Flat. A set of rooms for living in, usually on one floor of a building. For example, they're renting a furnished flat on the 3rd floor.
Floor.
Floor. The surface of a room that you walk on. For example, a wooden/concrete/tile floor.
Foreigner.
Foreigner. A person who comes from a different country. For example, the fact that I was a foreigner was a big disadvantage.
Frame. To put or make a frame or border around something. For example, be framed.
Furniture.
Furniture. Objects that can be moved, such as tables, chairs, and beds, that are put into a house or an office to make it suitable for living or working in. For example, garden/office furniture.
Gate. A barrier like a door that is used to close an opening in a fence or a wall outside a building. For example, the front main gate. Greenhouse.
Hall. A space or passage inside the entrance or front door of a building. For example, in a hall.
Handle.
Handle. The part of a door, window, etc. that you use to open it. For example, she turned the handle and opened the door.
Heaven.
Heaven. The place believed to be the home of God where good people go when they die, sometimes imagined to be in the sky. For example, the kingdom of heaven.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy. A system, especially in a society or an organization, in which people are organized into different levels of importance from highest to lowest. For example, the social/political hierarchy.
Home. Connected with the place where you live. For example, home life equals with your family. Home. Connected with the place where you live. For example, home life equals with your family. Home. Connected with the place where you live. For example, home life equals with your family.
Homeland. The country where a person was born. For example, many refugees have been forced to flee their homeland. Household. All the people living together in a house or flat. For example, most households now own at least one car.
Immigrant.
Immigrant. A person who has come to live permanently in a different country from the one they were born in. For example, immigrant from.
Indoor. Located, done, or used inside a building. For example, an indoor swimming pool. Indoors. Inside or into a building. For example, I prefer to stay indoors in this really hot weather.
Install.
Install. To fix equipment or furniture into position so that it can be used. For example, they are planning to install a new drainage system. Installation. The act of fixing equipment or furniture in position so that it can be used. For example, installation costs. Irony. The funny or strange aspect of a situation that is very different from what you expect, a situation like this. For example, it was one of life's little ironies.
Knock.
Knock. To hit a door, etc. in order to attract attention. For example, he knocked 3 times and waited.
Landlord. A person or company from whom you rent a room, a house, an office, etc. For example, the buy-to-let landlord equals who buys houses and flats in order to rent them out.
Liberal. Willing to understand and respect other people's behavior, opinions, etc., especially when they are different from your own, believing people should be able to choose how they behave. For example, liberal attitudes of views or opinions. Liberal. Willing to understand and respect other people's behavior, opinions, etc., especially when they are different from your own, believing people should be able to choose how they behave. For example, liberal attitudes of views or opinions.